Believe in Bigfoot? Dogman? Any cryptid? Are you skeptical?
Curious about the supernatural, conspiracy theories, the unknown? Then come join us as we explore facts, tall tales, and encounters on Creatures and Curiosities.
Hello and welcome to Creatures and Curiosities. I'm David.
And I'm Jake.
And in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about none other than our flying friend, the dragons.
Yeah. And they're out there.
You gotta love dragons.
Yes.
And
My son does.
What's not to love about dragons?
Besides that they're probably demons of some kind.
Yeah.
I guess that's the only thing.
Aside from the evil perspective.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Before we get into it, how was your week?
It's good. Busy. I realized on the way here that I think in the past week and a half, the only time I've sat down is if I'm driving somewhere to do something.
Yeah, isn't that terrible?
Otherwise, I'm just running nonstop.
Yeah, I know how that is.
You just got back?
I just got back from traveling again. Yeah, we went to San Francisco and took in a Giants-Cubs game.
Yeah.
Watched the Giants beat the Cubs. Of course, the Cubs took 2 out of 3 of the series, but I got to watch the one win.
And that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That and the fact that I got my crab sandwich, which...
And a
can't
good
go wrong with that.
A good Ghirardelli sundae.
And a Ghirardelli sundae,
Yeah.
right.
You can't beat that.
You can't. And the weather was absolutely fantastic there. It was like 71 degrees or something on game day. And our seats were on the club level, but they were in the shade too. So I didn't have the sun beating on me.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just phenomenal.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Sit there eating my crab sandwich, eating a Ghirardelli, watching the Giants win in the shade on a beautiful day. It just doesn't get better.
The only way it could be better is if some reason they move their organization to Montana.
Yeah.
Which I don't want them to do.
No, because it'd
just
have
more-
to be in a dome too.
Yeah.
You know, because the weather here wouldn't hold out
Oh,
for
yeah.
them. But no, it was a lovely trip. Of course, delayed flights on the way home.
The typical nonsense.
Didn't get back here till like 1:15 in the morning. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was a successful trip. So getting into dragons, there was too much on dragons to be able to cover everything.
Yeah.
And I don't profess to know that much about certain things, like when we get into the types of dragons and whatnot. I've never played like Dungeons and Dragons. Some of the things had no actual relevance to me, like, oh, that's the, metallic dragon. I don't know
Right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about it briefly. And there are several different styles of dragons. And when we get into the types of dragons, we'll talk about how those differ, whether they're like mythological, they're anime, they're
Yeah.
gaming dragons, or biblical types of dragons and stuff. So there's a variance in what people believe, but they're all basically the same kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It all starts to blend together.
Yeah.
Almost.
And then the fun part is knowing that we were going to be doing this dragon episode. We were in Chinatown and we went there for dinner, do a little shopping, go in and out of the cheap, crappy little
Yeah.
souvenir places where all the little stuff's made in China. And they just happened to have I don't even know that you could call it a parade or anything, but where they come dancing down the streets with the dragon costumes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they got the big-headed dragon with the flopping mouth, and then the guys that are holding the sticks with the long serpentine body.
Yeah.
And so I kept telling Grace, you need to get pictures of that for me for the podcast. She said, no, I don't want to. So we didn't get pictures, but it was still kind of fun watching it. So a description of dragons. Now, obviously, there's going to be multiple different kinds of dragons, but typically speaking, dragons are the legendary serpentine reptilian type mythical creatures found in folklore of multiple cultures. They typically possess combination of physical features like scales, claws, horns, and the ability to breathe fire, and some possess like magical powers. So when you get into the different types of dragons and how they evolved into the different geographical areas, you'll see that they're quite different. European dragons generally are depicted as the large four-legged, winged, fire-breathing monsters. And they're usually portrayed as being a destructive or evil type creature that is always slain by a heroic figure, right? So you think about
The knight in shining armor.
Knight in Shining
Yeah.
Armor, that he has to take it on. Disney's, Sleeping Beauty, when Maleficent becomes the dragon, and he's got to slay the dragon to get to Beauty. Multiple different storylines have that as this massive beast that has to be taken on by somebody with a sword or whatever their weapon of choice is at the time. But that is your European style dragon, because the East Asian dragons, like in China and Japan and Korea, those dragons are generally benevolent. They're wise. They're symbols of power, luck, and prosperity. And often they're tied to water, controlling rain, rivers, and tides. And they typically are represented as the long snake-like creatures without wings, just like the little parade in Chinatown. where
Yeah.
They're more like a serpent with a dragon's face and stuff on it. But as you know, the Chinese revere the dragon. They actually have, the Year of the Dragon,
Oh, yeah.
which occurred I think the last one was in 2024. And they're every 12 years. This one ran from February 10th to January 28th. Because the Chinese zodiac follows that 12-year cycle, the next return of the dragon will be in the year 2036. And oddly enough, the dragon is literally the only mythical creature in the Chinese zodiac. And I'm sure when you've been at a Chinese restaurant, you've looked at it, it goes by birth date.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm a rat.
Yeah, I think I want to say that when I looked, I was an earth dragon, but I can't remember if that's accurate or not.
Well, let's see.
I'll have to look it up.
You could be a dragon. Grace is a dragon. She was born in 2000. So 12 years prior,
I was 88.
88. So
Yeah.
you're a dragon.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so-
want to say it was an earth one,
So that's a
whatever that means.
good luck symbol when you're born in the year of the dragon.
Where
I'm
the
a
hell's that
rat.
luck at?
Yeah. I'm a rat, and I think some of our other family members are tigers, and
Yeah.
somebody's a horse or a dog or something. I don't know. But the dragon's the only one that isn't. When I say this, I don't actually mean it, but it's the only mythological creature in the zodiac. I personally think they exist.
Exactly.
And so I don't think it's mythological, but
You're telling me out of all the options, they have one that's just not real,
right.
but then all the other ones are real?
Yeah. Well, you know how science loves to ruin everything for everybody.
I saw
Tell
a
you
thing,
stuff doesn't exist.
not to go down a rabbit hole, just a quick little note. I don't remember the whole thing, and I'm sure people have seen it, but I saw something the other day that they were talking about the Chinese zodiac, and the person was trying to prove how pandas in some form or fashion are not natural animals,
Oh.
that they were a created animal. And they say if you look back through all of like Chinese zodiac or any of their books and paintings and stuff, back in the day, there's no pandas.
Wow.
But there's dragons, and there's rats, and there's horses, and there's tigers, and there's all those
Yeah.
things.
Well, we're going to have to look that up.
Yeah. So
Now you sparked my interest.
Yeah,
I got
and
to know, is
they-
that something that they bred and created?
the little
or-
thing I saw, they went on a whole tangent about how they were showing that they don't believe, not that pandas aren't real, but that they're not just a normal natural creature, that they were engineered to. So I think the reason they were saying was like to take down the bamboo because that's all they eat.
Oh,
But then they went on to talk about like how they fail to reproduce in captivity, and they're terrible at this, and they're dumb animals, and this. They had a bunch of stuff they went off of.
yeah. That's crazy.
But the thing
the only thing I've ever seen is they look cuddly and stuff, but they'll kill you.
Yeah. But the thing that threw me off, I was thinking about it. I'm like, I can't remember if I do see pandas and things, past a certain point in time.
Yeah. And yet it's like a focal point
Yeah.
in Asian literature and art and stuff. I mean, anywhere you go, there's little stickers of pandas and
Yeah.
paintings of pandas.
But that's more of I guess the argument this person was making, it's more of a modern thing.
Yeah.
If you look at all the zodiac and all the ancient stuff, there's not pandas anywhere.
Oh. Well, I know they love the dragons because we were going to go eat at the Golden Dragon.
Yeah. And I bet it would have been
restaurant.
phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. In ancient and Middle Eastern tradition, the early Mesopotamian And the Greco-Roman myths often featured dragons as these primordial serpents, and they all had like supernatural powers. They're mostly, in that mythology, they mostly like guard treasures and things of that nature. Moving into the origin of the dragon, this dates back quite a ways, but dragon myth actually probably, because nobody knows for certain, but probably originated independently across all the different cultures. So I don't think any one particular place, like if China says, oh no, we thought of the dragon first.
Right.
And the Europeans stole it from us, or the Australians stole it from us, or whoever. I think that it was very independent because it was in a time when that kind of information wouldn't flow, right? They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have newspaper delivery. They didn't have anything because we're talking BC. So back in those times, to get information from China to, say, Europe just was unheard of.
Yeah.
In 700,
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking that time frame. But the stories, regardless of how they were formed, often represented like fundamental forces of nature, water and rain, chaos. I think we even did in one of our prior podcasts, wasn't there some kind of a sea serpent that guarded an island? And remember, it would come up, but if it rained, it had to go back in. It couldn't handle fresh water.
Yeah,
you remember that episode?
What was that?
I honestly don't remember what it was, but it like controlled the seas, and it was mean and nasty, and it would kill the islanders, but it couldn't handle like fresh water. I know like the Neklavy episode couldn't handle fresh water and stuff.
Right.
But this one was like a serpent or something, wasn't it?
I thought so. And I can't remember what episode it was.
I don't know. We've done too many at this point to remember. But that's really what it boiled down to is thousands of years ago, people needed a reason for why stuff happened. And so they came up with it had to be a dragon.
Yeah.
Dragon, flew through the air and its big wings clapped and it caused thunder and it controls water. And when they say it controls like chaotic things, it just means that when famines and other horrible things struck, it was generally a sign that the dragon was awakened and it created this chaotic environment. Could you imagine if today we had to come up with stuff like, oh, the weather's bad today. Must have been Godzilla walking around or whatever. I mean, you just make something up.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's fun because if they didn't make it up, we wouldn't have dragons today.
And see, how do you just make that up with having, it's easy for us to think about making something up like that because we have so many like reference points now. But back then they didn't.
They didn't, right. And
so they had to have.
There had to be something.
A reference point.
Right. There had to be something that sparked.
Yeah.
Whether it was imagination or whether it was real. Something gave them the idea of a dragon. I think it was real.
Yeah.
Personally. And I think that science is always going to say, nope, there were no such thing as dragons. I can't help but believe that there were at some point. And people are going to say, well, you're crazy. But if you kind of look at the evidence, I think that dragons did exist. And we'll get into a little bit of that. But the earliest dragon figure actually appeared in Mesopotamia around 2700 BC, which that's a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
And these were depicted as these giant serpents or like a composite monster of some sort in mythological art and in literature. And an example of that, which I thought was kind of a fun story, was the dragon named Tiamat. So in Babylonian lore, Tiamat was this massive dragon that was, and I think this was a female, and she is the personification of the primeval sea and the forces of chaos. And so she was this saltwater monster. And she was married to Apsu, who was a freshwater dragon. So the two of them in apparently brackish water, the two of them ended up together. biblically knowing one another. And she gave birth to the first generation of young deities,
Demons.
demons.
Yeah.
And when the little noisy, younger little g gods disturbed their peace, Apsu and Tiamat actually planned to destroy him. So Ea, who was the god of wisdom, found out about this plan and decided that Apsu had to die. So they end up killing Apsu, and that just enraged Tiamat.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course. I
Yeah.
mean, you're a female dragon. You just lost your husband. What are
Yeah.
you going to do? Going to breathe fire and kill everything?
It's not like there's a bunch of them going around.
Exactly. So Tiamat creates an army of these monsters and dragons to avenge Apsu's death. Well, the storm god Marduk, eventually he hears about this game plan to destroy the little deities, and he gets ticked off. And so he goes after Tiamat, and he uses the wind to trap her. He slays her. He slices her body in half, and from her corpse, he creates heaven and earth. So for those of you that believe in God and Jesus Christ, no, you're wrong. It was two
Yeah.
dragons that created everything, at least
Clearly.
in Mesopotamia and Babylonian lore. That's how earth and the heavens came to existence today. Of course, we know that's
Right.
it's craziness. But these types of tales over time, this is what literally allowed the ancient people to explain natural phenomena, thunderstorms and volcanic gases, vast uninhabited caves. They say, well, it had to be dragons that did this, that burrowed into the hillsides and made these massive caves to live in, and volcanic ash and fire and all the things that happen were as a result of dragon's breath. And so this is how dragons came to be.
Yeah.
People believed that they were out there and they created not only the earth and the heavens, but caves and volcanoes, and they controlled waterways, they controlled rain,
Everything.
they controlled everything. They were gods. So it's kind of a crazy origin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, it's clearly not accurate, but it's kind of a fun story about little Tiamat and Apsu.
So you got to wonder if something like that is, are these people running around and there is some kind of, I would assume it'd be a demonic entity that's telling them this,
Well,
because where do you get dragon from? Like,
okay, so the
How-
term dragon actually is Greek, drakon, and that means dragon. And in the Bible, which we were going to cover a little bit later, but
Right.
Tannin in the Bible, I think was probably Hebrew, was the term for a dragon, which science will now tell you, oh, well, they meant, crocodiles
yeah.
or whatever. But back in those times, they did have names for dragons. And we interpret those terms, drakon and tannin, as being a dragon.
Right.
And some people are saying, no, those were actually dinosaurs. Well, I don't think so. I think fallen angels could
Yeah.
take the form of that. And as we get more into this podcast and we go over like the biblical references
Right.
of dragons, I think it makes more sense that those could have been evil forces.
Right. And I guess that's what I kind of meant is not the term itself, dragon, but I don't think this story was just made up by them. I think they saw actual dragons and then maybe even spoke to them and got this. Because what better way to pull people away from God than to tell them, like, no, dragons.
Right.
We
Well,
did this.
And in theory,
Yeah.
what was the first thing that pulled people away from God?
The serpent.
The serpent.
Yeah.
And a dragon can be a serpent.
Yeah. And that's what makes me think that
Yeah.
these are just evil forces at play, telling them and luring them away with
Yeah.
these stories.
Exactly.
So not that somebody just made this up on their own, but they got this information in some form of fashion.
Which is not only very possible, but feasible.
Right. Yeah.
So, so let's get into the types of dragons.
Yeah.
Now, this is where there's so many. If you go online, because I'm sure as you listen to this, you'll say, no, you guys forgot this one or whatever. People have made lists of the names of dragons and what their physical attributes are and stuff. But I'm kind of going with the generalized type of dragon. And for the most part, you're going to see that there's 7 types of dragons.
Yeah.
You can go online and it'll say there's 7, there's 9, there's 12, there's 15, there's 20, there's 13. And you can go all day long and look at the different kinds or different names of dragons. But for the most part, what is like worldwide accepted, there's 7 types of dragons. And so in mythology and folklore, the classic dragon is like the Western dragon. That one is the fire-breathing, 4-legged lizard type with bat wings.
Yeah.
That's our dragon.
It's classic.
Right? That's classic. That's actually, I have a dragon tattoo on my arm.
Yeah.
And that's what I have. It's the Godzilla-looking one with
It's
wings.
the coolest looking one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you get into the Eastern dragon, those were serpentine, wingless, potentially multi-legged or no legs. Depends.
Yeah.
And those were associated with water, wisdom, good fortune. So those are your good dragons. So that's why they march through the streets in China carrying dragons. That's a symbol of good luck and good fortune and good things coming your way. In other cultures, the presence of a dragon is an omen. It's bad news. It's something bad's going to happen, or it's going to do something bad.
Yeah.
So Western dragons, Eastern dragons are diametrically opposed. Evil versus good, basically.
Yep, big time.
Then you have the wyvern, which is a smaller but highly aggressive dragon. And that one only has 2 legs and 2 wings. And sometimes they show it having a barb on its tail that's poisonous. There's the drake, which is the quadrupedal wingless dragon that relies on strength and sometimes elemental breath rather than flight. So this one doesn't fly. This one
Almost
runs.
looks like a dragon dog.
So what I picture that drake looking like is like Randall from Monsters, Inc., right? This like little wingless salamander looking thing running around. There's the Hydra. This guy is a massive, like reptilian type monster. He possesses multiple heads with central heads being immortal. And this is the one similar to like a Medusa thing.
Yeah.
The guy comes in with the sword and lops off, 4 of the heads.
Like in Hercules.
Yeah, but it comes back.
Right.
You don't kill it because the heads are immortal and they just reform.
And multiply.
And so actually isn't there a worm called a Hydra? There's some kind of worm.
There might be.
That some species that if you chop it up, it just becomes 2 now. It's got it like
I think you're right. It is
a hammerhead worm or something.
It is a worm of some kind, yeah.
Well, that's what this one does.
Yeah.
You chop it off and it grows back. There's the lindworm, which is another wingless serpentine type dragon. It's often depicted as having either 2 or no legs at all. But the lindworm is the kind that hoards treasure and he guards treasures. Then there's the worm, which is WYRM. And he's a legendary dragon resembling a massive sea serpent, completely lacking legs and wings. So he's literally just like a snake, but generally in water.
Yeah.
So, which could, since we just talked about Flessie and Nessie and Tessie, could be something that lives in lakes, bodies of water and oceans that we keep seeing the humps all over the place. That could be a worm.
That could be, yeah.
Yeah. Instead of a plesiosaur that people think it is or
Which
something.
I like that better. I'd rather it be like a water dragon.
It's a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm running with from now on. So when anybody says, have you seen the flathead monster? I'm saying, the dragon?
The water dragon?
The water dragon? Yeah, of course. And there's other recognized dragons. You want to cover some of those?
Yeah. So there's the Leviathan, which is a water dragon or a sea monster. And it's usually representing uncontrollable forces. And, that's one of the things that's said to return biblically.
Yeah.
When the good Lord comes back.
And that's going to be
right before the good Lord comes back, excuse me.
That'll be a frightening one.
Then there's the basilisk. which is a lesser dragon that can turn things to stone or ash with a single glance. Then you have the fairy. It's a small, mischievous, and colorful dragon that usually lives in an enchanted forest.
So that's like in your Disney cartoons and stuff. It flutters around, like a dragonfly or something, but it's an actual little dragon.
Then we have an amphitheater, which is a legless serpent with feathery wings. And then there's
that one supposedly looks more like a bird or like a griffin type thing. If you look it up, it doesn't really look a whole lot like a dragon. It looks more like a bird of some kind.
I like it. And then sea serpent, which is, of course, just an aquatic dragon with no wings, and it can manipulate tides and storms.
Which is kind of like that thing that we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
And Tiamat was probably that.
Yeah.
Because she controlled the seas while Apsu controlled freshwater systems. Now they're both dead.
So he was a worm and she was a sea serpent.
Yeah, more than likely.
There it is.
That's what I'm buying into. And so I have zero experience in Dungeons and Dragons, never played the game, never did anything about it. So I don't understand it, but I do know that the dragons play a big part in the game.
Like we were talking about before, that what I know about it is the very little they talk about in Stranger Things.
Yeah. And I don't even remember if there was a dragon.
Yeah,
I remember bats and different things and screaming.
The Demogorgon.
Screaming and yelling at the table and Demogorgons. But I don't remember specifically anything about dragons. But when you do a little research on it, you'll see that there were chromatic dragons, which were considered to be the evil ones in this game. There were metallic dragons, which were the good dragons. And then there were the neutral gem dragons, which I guess could go either direction dependent upon either gameplay or, again, I'm not familiar, so I don't know why they're neutral or if, the player can make them one or the other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but you want to cover like the chromatics.
Yeah, so they have like the red dragon, which is a massive fire-breathing tyrant known for greed and ferocity, and it lives in the mountains and volcanoes. There's the blue dragon. It's master of electricity who dwell in deserts and arid badlands. Green dragon, forest-dwelling manipulator who breathes poisonous gas. It's deceitful and spiteful. Black dragon, which is acid-breathing, and it lurks in a swamp or dark marshes, and it's usually pretty cruel and territorial. Then there's the white dragon that's cold-adapted. It's a primal hunter who dwells in freezing, icy peaks, and it's very aggressive.
Now a lot of these things do remind me of the Necklavi. Didn't that horse breathe acid or something? Or like a toxic gas?
It was a gas, yeah.
Yeah, it had fire in its eyes, but it could breathe like toxic gas and whatnot. And a lot of these dragons are the same.
Right.
If they're not breathing fire, they're breathing acid or they're breathing noxious fumes that kill you, basically. And then some of them, like the blue dragon that you just talked about, when it says it's a master of electricity, my understanding is that one actually breathes lightning. So it opens its mouth and throws lightning bolts at you. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think that's what it is. Then there's the metallic dragons.
So your gold is the most powerful and noble of the metallic dragons. It's known for wisdom and fire, weakening breath. It lives in the mountains and islands. Then there's the silver, which is benevolent. It's a cloud-dwelling dragon, often known to take human form to aid mortals.
So that's the nice one. It's supposed to live like on the mountain peaks up in the clouds.
You have your bronze, which stays in the coastal regions. It breathes lightning and repulsion gas. They're also known to be honor-bound warriors. They're copper dragons. Rugged hills and mountains is where they live. They breathe acid or slowing gas. They're pranksters with quick tempers, and they love jokes. And then there's your brass, which stay in the arid deserts. They breathe fire or sleep gas. They're highly social, talkative, and inquisitive.
Yeah, and then you get into the gem dragons. There's the amethyst, who's the most majestic and powerful. He's wise and even-tempered, and they manipulate objects, and they breathe concussive waves of force.
I like it.
There's the crystal dragon, who's the friendliest of the gem dragons. They're curious, often converse with travelers, and they emit a blinding flash or they breathe radiant, glowing light. There's the emerald dragon, highly intelligent and inquisitive, but deeply distrusting and paranoid. And they guard their lairs with traps, and they possess wind-based breath weapons, which I'm not sure what those would be.
Yeah, maybe.
Like blowguns or something?
Yeah.
Is that what they mean? There's the sapphire dragon. He's martial and fiercely territorial. They are militant enemies of aberrations like mind flayers. Now I do remember
I know
them talking
that.
about
See,
that.
I know that.
And they have a breath weapon that disrupts sound or causes debilitating panic. And then there's the topaz dragon, and that one is chaotic and erratic. They prefer the coastline, desolate islands, and their breath weapons include a searing blast of dehydration or necrotic energy. That's kind of frightening.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying.
And so then the next thing that we would move into is there's another classic of How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Oh, I've seen it hundreds of times. Love it.
And in How to Train Your Dragon franchise, the dragons known to the Vikings are grouped into, again, 7 distinct classes based on their shared characteristics.
Yeah, so there's the Boulder class. It's a ground-dwelling, earth-eating species, heavily armored and often possessing multiple heads. The guy in the show's name is Grunkle. My son's going to love this portion of it because he's a big fan of the movie. There's the Mystery class. That's the rare, elusive, and poorly understood dragons, which is the Change Wings. There's the Sharp class, the vain, agile, and vanity-driven dragons with razor-sharp physical traits, which is known as the Timberjack. There's the Stoker class. They're highly aggressive, fire-breathing dragons that are often covered in flames. This guy's name is the Monstrous Nightmare. You have your Strike class. They're extremely intelligent. They're rare and fast-flying dragons with pinpoint accuracy, which is your Night Fury. Tidal class, the massive aquatic or semi-aquatic dragons that typically cannot fly. And that guy's the Sea Shocker. And then you have your Tracker class. These dragons possessing an extraordinary sense of smell or tracking capabilities. And this guy's known as the Deadly Natter.
Now, see, I've never really watched that. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to so that I understand what all these names are.
They had the cartoon and then they came out. There's like 3 or 4 of the cartoons. I don't know.
Right.
I just like the first one, but then they also came out with a, what do you call it? Like a live action version of it.
Yeah.
So
then there's the Wings of Fire book series, and the dominant dragon species are split into 7 categories there as well.
there it is.
And they're all located on the continent of Pyrea. There were the mud wings that were built for swimming and blending into the mud and exhaling scalding fire when their bodies are warm. There were the sand wings, which were heat-resistant survivors of the desert, featuring the venomous barbtail. Sky wings, which were the powerful high-flying warriors with vast endurance and extremely hot fire. The sea wings, which were aquatic dragons equipped with webbed talons, glowing scales, and the ability to breathe underwater. There were the rain wings, color-changing camouflaged dragons that sprayed deadly acid instead of fire. Ice wings, cold-resistant, frost-breathing dragons with serrated claws and freezing breath. And there were the night wings, which were the mysterious, secretive dragons native to volcanic islands, and some were born with mind-reading abilities. And so, just as you look throughout literature, movies, historical stuff, mythological stuff, there's a ton of dragons out there.
Yeah.
And the funny part is they all basically share the same kind of characteristics.
Well, I think that's the key there is there's something to it.
There is something to it. And so even in one culture to the next, they basically have the same kind of stuff as they're classifying them out into these, 7, 12, 15, 20 different categories of what they are. But as you go through these things, you see that, well, some spit acid and some spit fire and some don't have wings and some, and all these different cultures have all the same kinds of stuff.
It's all the same stuff with small tweaks to it.
Yeah. And so then you move into dragons in the Bible. And this is where even theologians will become almost argumentative about, are they real or are they not? Are they metaphorical? Are they real? And none of these theologians actually come to one mindset as to what the Bible was saying.
Right.
Because most of them are going to say, no, this was all just metaphorical stuff. It's not like a real dragon. It just meant evil, or it meant it was an evil empire. And I don't know about that. I'm not a biblical scholar, but it seems to me that the Bible kind of points out some forms of actual dragons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we'll just kind of get into it here without just my opinion. Dragons actually appear in the Bible 35 different times. 22 times in the Old Testament, 13 times in the New Testament. And like I said, the theologians say they're primarily symbolic metaphors for chaotic or sinister behaviors, or Satan, that it literally talks about Satan as a dragon. While some translations, like the King James Version, explicitly use the word dragon, modern scholars interpret these references to large sea monsters or mythical beasts. So let's get into like a symbolic dragon. A lot of people will say that the most famous dragon in the Bible is found in the book of Revelations, where they have this massive 7-headed red dragon that represents Satan and evil. And I know you've read Revelations,
Yep.
and you're familiar with that. And there's no doubt that the book of Revelations is referring to Satan as the great dragon, that great dragon. And so I do see where they can say this is just symbolic, but could it be that Satan actually takes the form of a dragon? And so therefore it is a real dragon that comes back during the end times. I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
I know that it's referring to Satan as being this beast, but would it not actually be a dragon then if he comes back in the form of a dragon? Whether it's Satan or whether it's an animal, it's still a dragon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there it is.
Yeah, I think
as far as I'm concerned, he comes as a dragon.
I mean, horrors being just decimating the earth,
Yeah.
or like the horrors of evil are.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's not the form of like beautiful angel that has fallen from heaven.
Yeah.
It's going to be this big demon.
Not the angel of light. He's,
Right.
he's
Yeah.
going to be a 7-headed dragon.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, such as Isaiah and Ezekiel, there's a dragon-like monster that is used as a metaphor to describe oppressive foreign empires, like when Egypt and Babylon were hostile to God's people. They were referred to as like a dragon. And I can understand those because when you read those particular passages, it is literally talking about a city or a government, within a city that was evil towards the Jewish people.
Right.
But they were hearkened to a dragon or a monster in the way that the people were treated, if any of that makes sense.
Yeah.
The Bible also talks about Leviathan, which we did discuss as being a dragon.
Yeah.
But in Psalms and Job, Leviathan is described as this fire-breathing, nearly invincible sea monster that's going to come up out of the sea. And as you read into that more, it's like Leviathan, I think, is out there right now. I don't believe that that
Appears.
God creates it later.
Yeah.
I think it's actually out in the sea now waiting for end times. That's my personal take, because I've read other scripture that talks about, that Leviathan is used to demonstrate God's ultimate power over untamable forces of nature. And Leviathan is described as something that no man can conquer. It's a beast of such enormity and such evil that we can't do anything about it. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, but it's kind of like Godzilla.
Yeah.
Coming up out of the ocean, and the
Yeah.
armies are shooting at it with machine guns, and they can't do anything about it. It's just so massive and
That,
so
but worse.
powerful.
Yeah.
And so when you read about Leviathan in the Bible, I believe that is an actual physical entity that is in the depths of the ocean waiting for the right time to emerge and create havoc on Earth.
Yep. I agree.
And a lot of people would say, no, you're completely off base. And a lot of theologians will say, no, that's just a metaphorical term to show that, God's power is invincible and he's the only thing that could take out such a creature. That's the point they're trying to get across. I personally see it as being an actual beast that's going to come out of the ocean.
Yeah.
But I see things a lot literal, that a lot of people and a lot of theologians and a lot of pastors in churches will always kind of explain stuff off a little bit. It's like the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls and all the things that are going to happen in Revelations. And when it talks about the winged beasts, with the faces of a of a human, but the mane of a lion and the wings and breastplates of armor with stingers like scorpions, and they're going to torture mankind for 3 months, and you're going to wish you were dead, but you won't find death. Well, when the scripture says that, and it says that they're going to come out like locusts, and they're going to wreak havoc on men and sting them, I know that there is that perspective that, well, when, John was seeing these visions, he couldn't describe
F-16s look like
warfare,
drones
stuff
and
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people will go that route and say, now it's describing like World War III or end times. It's an apocalyptic event, but it's all man-made. It's all warfare. It's machine guns and things like that John couldn't even fathom.
Yeah.
So he's describing what he sees. I think it's going to be winged
actual scorpions with
that are,
wings. Yeah.
Because I think that God's wrath is going to unleash things on earth that we can't comprehend.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an F-14 fighter jet that fired a missile, and John described it inaccurately. I really believe that there's going to be spiritual warfare. There's going to be demonic stuff. There's going to be horrifying things that no man, well, it literally says that some men will just die, period. I mean, just standing, seeing stuff, they're just going to drop dead. Well, what kind of fear is that? That's fear beyond any anything I can imagine.
Or as the Bible says, they'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
I love when it says that.
Yeah.
He fell asleep. And never woke.
And never woke.
You mean he died?
Yeah. They're toast. And why? Because there were winged beasts with scorpion tails, stinging people. And
stabbing their wife in the head.
Yeah.
They couldn't die, so they just passed out and died.
So if you want to take things metaphorically, feel free to, because everybody interprets differently. But I believe that Leviathan and dragons existed, at least in biblical time.
Yep.
Tannin, that's the Hebrew word that appears frequently in the Old Testament and is translated as being a dragon, a jackal, or a sea monster. And it's typically used to describe a monstrous serpent or an aquatic creature, and it's associated with dangers of the deep. And again, that's up to interpretation. I mean, it's possible that was just a metaphorical term as well. But science wants to say, well, they were literally talking about like saltwater crocs. Or they were talking about when God created Earth on the 5th day, these massive beasts were made, and those were dinosaurs. But there's no dragons. And then you'll get other people that are saying, no, dragons actually boarded the ark and survived the destruction of the earth.
Yeah.
And so who knows what to believe other than the fact that now we're going to move into sightings. And I can't help but feel like people have seen dragons, and historically speaking, dragons have been around. They're in drawings, they're in art. They date back before Christ was on earth, and there just has to be a reason for that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just like all the things that we've talked about. When you see bat squatch flying around, if 500 people saw it, they had to see it.
Yeah.
You can't just explain it off as, oh, no, they saw a blue jay and they were all on, heroin or something.
And even if
it's crazy,
even if half of them are lying for attention, the other half still saw it.
Yeah. And if half of those people are nuts, then you still have a quarter of people
exactly
saw it. So, I mean, no matter how you boil it down mathematically speaking, if 1,000 people saw something, but only one was telling the truth,
It still exists. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And dragons exist.
Yep.
They just have to. Now, there's the guy on TikTok that we stopped watching because
Oh yeah, he started ticking me off.
he started going too far
Yeah.
for me. And somebody might even know who we're talking about. I don't want to throw his name out
Yeah.
there. I do know it, but
Yeah.
he talks about giants and he shows like aerial shots of mountain ranges that literally look like people laid down and died, like with their mouth open
Yep.
or whatever. He also has aerial shots of like geographical areas that just 100% look like dragons.
Yeah.
Have you seen those?
Yeah. Well, that's what you sent those to me, and that's what got me first watching him.
Yeah.
Was the giants and the dragons.
It,
And it's and we're not
uncanny.
talking. I always forget the name of the word, and I think we've even gone over this before. You know how when you look into like popcorn ceiling,
Yeah.
or in the clouds, and you can make stuff out. You're like,
Right.
I see that. No, it looks like somebody sat down and drew a dragon.
Yes.
But
You
it's-
can
but it's
literally
the mountain
see
range.
the dragon's face.
Yep.
In one of them, it's a mountain range, but it is so clearly a dragon's face with like one of the arms with the claw
Yep.
on it. And then
Is that the one where the eye is like
yes,
perfect? Yeah.
Yes. And you see scales.
Yep.
But the scales are rock formations, but they're too perfect. They're like they're scales.
Yeah.
And so I just can't help but believe that at least at some point, whether you believe that they exist now, at some point dragons existed.
Yeah.
And they were big. It wasn't like it was some tiny little speck or
Yeah.
like the little mythological, colorful fairy dragon.
Right. Yeah.
You know, these were good-sized dragons. Okay, so let's move into sightings. They're going to say, of course,
Of course.
there is no scientifically accepted evidence or any verified sighting of a giant fire-breathing dragon.
Of course not.
period.
Of course not.
However, there are famous historical reports of sightings. And again, now this is where you got to get into the credibility of people.
Yep.
If one nut says, I saw a dragon, okay, maybe you had the town nut. But when multiple people see things, then there has to be some level of credibility behind it. And these first two, as far as I'm concerned, are probably credible.
Absolutely.
And then the
Yep.
last thing that we talk about is your basic Reddit, I saw something,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I can dismiss that. But the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and I had no idea what that was, but basically what it was is this was written centuries ago. And there's multiple centuries of occurrence of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. And what it does is it's a historical perspective of the Anglo-Saxon people throughout time. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle predates this date, but the date of 793 AD was the first year that it was published in the Chronicle that European and Asian text mentioned flying serpents. And there was an entry in the Chronicle that literally described fiery dragons flying through the Northumbrian sky. And the people of that time viewed this as an omen. And this was going to be too much to get into. But there was this specific event that was like this big disastrous thing. And the people thought that the presence of these flying dragons that everyone was witnessing was literally bringing this chaotic event to light. And it was a huge ordeal. And like I said, if I would have gone down that rabbit hole, we'd be talking for another hour just about that particular event.
Yeah.
It was like this massive battle of a whole place being taken over by the Nordics or something of that nature. But it was preceded by all these dragons flying around, which kind of reminded me of Mothman prophecy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't know. Everything links together
Yeah.
over, when you start studying all this cryptid stuff, it's just kind of funny how whether it is folklore to keep kids away from something or, whether it's the presence of this thing either brings doom or gloom or it's a warning or whatever, you start seeing the correlation between all this stuff from 793 AD
Yeah.
to present. And it's kind crazy.
It's wild, yeah.
But the most famous incident is in 1934. And this comes from China. We're not talking two people. Thousands of eyewitnesses in Yingkou reported this large, massive, injured creature falling from the sky. And it comes crashing down to earth. And literally thousands of people saw it. So, of course, they reported it to the news. And about 10 days later, this massive skeleton was actually discovered in a reed pond near the Liaohe River. The skeleton measured about 10 meters long, and it was put on public display. Local newspapers ended up running a story covering the event. You know, they interviewed witnesses and stuff. I mean, this was a big ordeal.
Yeah.
And they just knew this was a dragon that everybody saw come crashing to earth. And then they find the skeletal remains of it. And then it kind of just went away after that. You know, I mean, it was published. It was a big deal there. But nobody else cared about it, especially, you know, during that time. But the incident resurfaced in 2004. And that prompted science investigators to go out and actually interview anybody that was a survivor from that time that might have witnessed it. They looked at the photographs, and guess what they concluded?
Here we go.
They said that the skeletal remains was that of a stranded baleen whale.
I mean, they are known to fall from the sky.
So there's a lot of whales flying around.
Yep.
That, to me, is the key. Okay, so they said that it was possible that this whale somehow got into the river, got stranded in shallow waters, died, got picked apart.
Yeah.
And there's the whale. Well, it also had horns that they said clearly that something had happened and the bones were out of order, which they just looked like horns. But they were clearly that of a baleen whale. And so my thought was, thousands of people saw it come crashing down out of the sky. So how did a whale get up in the sky?
Exactly.
What's he doing swimming around up there in the atmosphere?
And then somehow the remains of that whale just happened to be where whatever fell out of the sky landed in the same spot.
Landed, you know, at least close by.
Coincidence, yeah.
Yeah. I can't take it. It had to have been a dragon.
Yep. It had to have been.
Because whales don't fly.
No. Not that I know of, at least. Maybe there's a whale cryptid out there that flies we don't know about.
We got to look that up.
Yep.
Wee Willie the flying whale. Yeah. Jeez. Anywho, yeah, it was a whale. And that's what they're going to run with.
Bogus.
Yeah. Not buying it.
No.
So in more recent years, like up to like 1992, sightings of identified winged beasts were reported in rural Oregon and in Idaho. And a lot of people came out and said, it's a dragon. Now, we have seen something like that, right? Didn't we watch a video of a guy filming one?
Yeah.
And then the Bat Squatch. Bat Squatch, where was that? That was Washington.
Yes.
And they didn't know that it was Bat Squatch. They said it looked like a big pterodactyl flying dragon looking thing flying around that was later thought to be Bat Squatch because other people saw it too. But you remember it came out of a cave or something?
Yep.
It dove off and it was flying around and could have been a dragon.
Could have been a dragon.
Could have been Bat Squatch. I'm not sure which one it was, but it was something.
See, I'm okay with that misidentified creature.
Yeah, because
I thought it was a dragon. I was a Bat Squatch or vice versa. But
Right.
don't tell me that a whale
No,
fell out of the sky when I
Yeah.
saw something fall out of the sky.
I can't take it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I've got on sightings because nobody really comes forward. And like I said, if you go on social sites, Facebook, Reddit, anything like that, you're going to find people say, yeah, no, I saw one, 22 years ago when I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. But there's no evidence to support it. And so I didn't really want to get into just people saying I saw one. The Yingkou incident, that had to be to be a dragon.
Thousands of people.
Thousands of people see it. The news reports it. They've got pictures of it, which, by the way, gone. Can't find it. And then we come up with, it's a whale.
Yeah.
That's just too much for me to deal with. Okay, let's get into, because we got to wind this thing up. Let's get into some famous dragons.
Yeah.
When you get into like legendary and mythological dragons, those are what always come to mind, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if I just said something about a dragon, somebody's going to picture something that they saw on TV or in a movie
Yep.
or a Disney show or whatever. And that's the first thing that comes to your mind. One that I didn't list, but I always think of was little Pete's dragon.
Oh,
Remember
yeah. Pete's Dragon.
Yeah, that's probably to me one of the most famous cartoon dragons there was. But you want to cover those?
Yeah. So Fafnir, it's a Norse one. He was a cursed dwarf who transformed into a greedy dragon guarding a hoard of treasure. He was immortalized in the Volsunga saga. And then there's the one that you talked about, Tiamat, which is the Mesopotamian one, a primordial sea goddess and saltwater dragon representing the chaos of creation. Then there's the Quetzalcoatl, which is the Aztec one.
That's another name for that dragon that we talked about that has the feathers and stuff, and he looks like a bird.
Yep. Feathered serpent, flying dragon-like figure associated with the wind, rain, and learning. Ying Long, which is obviously the Chinese one, a powerful winged rain dragon, and the mythical king of all dragons in Chinese folklore.
Yeah, and then moving into pop culture and cinematic type dragons.
Yep. You got Smaug from The Hobbit. It's a massive, cunning, and greedy fire drake who famously took over the Lonely Mountain in Tolkien's universe.
And then my favorites.
I might get these names wrong.
It's-
Drogon,
Yeah.
Rhaegal, and Viserion.
Yep.
From Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon.
Yeah, so like Daenerys Targaryen, she had the eggs. I don't know if you ever watched that series.
I've read the books. I never watched the movies.
Yeah, she had the 3 eggs and they hatched and they loved her and they hung out with her and she would use them to like wipe out entire civilizations and
I
stuff.
love it.
Yeah. And they were cool dragons.
And then to my son, there's the famous Toothless from
Yep.
How to Train Your Dragon. That's the incredibly loyal and playful Night Fury from the DreamWorks franchise. And then there's Little Mushu from Mulan.
Yep.
He's the fast-talking, comedic, and diminutive red guardian dragon from the Disney film.
And then moving into anime and gaming.
Yeah. You got Shenron from Dragon Ball. He was the mighty eternal dragon who summoned by gathering the 7 Dragon Balls to grant a wish. Then there's Charizard and Dragonite from Pokemon, 2 of the most legendary dragon-type creatures from the massive video game franchise.
Sure, your son would love those too.
Loves that one too. Spyro the Dragon.
That's the one I know
From
this.
Yep. The energetic, fire-breathing purple dragon and star of the classic video game series. Which, what did that come out in, like the late 90s or something?
Yeah, way back
then,
because
yeah.
my kids played that all the time.
Yep, and so did I when I
loved
was a
it.
kid.
That and Hedgehog.
Yep. Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yep.
Yes, Sonic Hedgehog.
And then there's Haku from Spirited Away, the graceful spirit who takes the form of a white serpentine dragon to guide the protagonist, Chihiro.
Yeah, so I was never into anime, didn't do a whole lot of gaming.
Yep.
Never really had time for it. So
Yeah.
too busy.
Yeah,
But
you were full-time working then.
full-time
Yeah.
working and
When all the
and
video
trying to
game
raise
stuff hit.
6 kids and
Yeah.
stuff too. So it was
Not
tough.
really time for that stuff.
But yeah, those are probably the most popular dragons.
Oh, yeah.
And of course we left some out. Obviously, Maleficent turns into the big dragon in Disney.
Right. Pete's
Um,
Dragon, like you said.
Pete's Dragon. There was H.R. Pufnstuf. He was
Yep.
he was a dragon too, with the magic piccolo and
Yeah.
the little weirdo that ran around with him. But that pretty much covers what we're going to cover on dragons. And moving into an explanation, which always irritates me, is they believe that ancient civilizations likely discovered dinosaur or prehistoric mammal bones, interpreted them as remnants of giant, fearsome dragons. Well, is that plausible? Yeah, I guess it could be. If they uncovered a T-Rex or something, they might say, boy, look at the teeth on that thing. That must have been a big dragon or something.
Yeah.
I guess that's okay, but they didn't have wings. But I
Yeah.
suppose you could unearth a pterodactyl and
Just-
see the wings
Yeah.
and come up with something. And then that opens a whole nother door of whether or not you believe in dinosaurs.
Yeah.
There's no mention of dinosaurs technically in the Bible, but there is at the same time Leviathan and the Tannin and all that. The Behemoth, and all that. So, yeah, you can make the jump that dinosaurs roamed the earth, but then you get into the whole thing of, is it 200 million years ago, or did they roam with man?
Right.
How long has the earth actually been here? Was it 50,000 years? Was it 20 billion years? I mean, you can play that game all day long, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have the answer to it. I'm one that believes the earth's only been here for a finite amount of time, maybe 30 to 50,000 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm not one that buys into the 163 million years ago dinosaurs roamed the earth. I think that if there were dinosaurs, that they were here while we were here.
Yeah.
And we had to live amongst them.
And some of them flew and they were called dragons.
Yeah. And they were dragons, right. And then you can move into the other explanation of being plant fossils. So a 2020 study suggested that the Paleozoic plant fossils, such as the Lepidodendron, which resemble reptile scales, may have fueled dragon myths worldwide. Apparently that particular plant was, all over the place in multiple regions. And when it fossilized, it left scale impressions. And so they said, that it must have been a dragon. I don't buy it.
That's bogus.
That's bogus. It'd be in the shape probably of a leaf. And even though it leaves scale-like impressions, in rock or petrified wood or whatever they find these things.
You're not making a whole dragon out of that.
You don't have the dragon's head and the wings and the claws and the tail with the barb and all the things that people have come up with.
Yeah.
So those are basic explanations. And then, of course, today we say, no, dragons do exist because we have the Komodo. We have a Komodo dragon.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's called a Komodo dragon. And I just not going to say that crocodiles were mistaken as dragons back in the day and all that. I believe there were dragons, period.
End of story.
End of story.
And we're always right, so it doesn't matter.
And we're always right. And if you tune into us, you know that we're right. And could these be demonic entities? Of course they could.
Yeah.
They were evil. We know the serpent, approached Eve in the garden and tricked her into ruining all mankind.
Right.
So I believe that winged and unwinged serpents did exist. I think they still can exist. Do we see dragons flying around breathing fire and are we out slaying them? No. But it doesn't mean that they can't exist.
Right.
And for Leviathan being out there in the ocean swimming around waiting for the end of the world to occur so he can raise his nasty head, I 100% believe that.
Yep.
So, yes, dragons exist. I don't think we need to be a knight in shining armor and go slay one. And I don't think they're a sign of good fortune like the Chinese culture believes. I think that it's going to be a horrifying creature in the end times.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think anybody wants to.
You're not going to want to see one.
Not going to want to meet it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, that's it. That's all I got on dragons.
That's it. I think we covered it as much as you really can.
As much as we can.
Until you start getting into, like you said, the 5 million Reddit posts of user 125 who said they saw it.
Right. And multiple other names of dragons that people say
potential classes. Yep, exactly.
But anyway, you got the basic gist of it here, and we're going to go on record as saying they did exist at one point, they may exist now, and they're definitely coming back in the future.
Yep, absolutely.
So there it is. Now, in our next episode, we are going to talk about a very bizarre creature.
Yeah.
He's from the Inuit folklore. He lives in the Arctic, and he likes to snag kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of a scary thing.
We don't know for what.
Yeah.
Slavery or food.
Is he a pedophile or is he a cannibal? We don't know. But tune in next week. We're going to talk about the Quallapalak. And nobody's ever heard of that guy.
No.
Unless, you're Inuit.
And maybe you've seen one.
If you have, call us before 2 weeks.
Yeah, let us know.
And until then.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show and you want to help us out, then go ahead and give us a follow, leave us a review, and don't forget to turn on the automatic download button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And as always, if you've had any experiences, stories, thoughts, comments, or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to cryptidfanatic@gmail.com. Let us know if you'd like to be on the show or just have your story featured during one of our episodes.